Hello, I'm Nick, and today I'm going to be talking about how new media is affecting newspapers and business. The first thing that I want to talk about is how the revenue has been declining. According to the Newspaper Association of America, newspapers' total revenue declined 2% in 2012. And according to the Pew Research Center, just 23% of people that were interviewed said they read a print newspaper yesterday, which was only down 3% since 2010. But since 2000, 47% is what it was at that time, which is more than halfway cut in half. In this chart, it's showing how print advertising revenues is falling and online revenue is increasing. You can see that between 2006 and 2012, it's more than halfway cut in half, and it doesn't seem like it's going up at all in recent years, as it is in a continuous decline. As I mentioned earlier, the newspaper readers numbers are down incredibly. Between 2002 and 2012, 18% less amount of people are reading the printed newspaper, from 41% to 23%, which is just incredible to know that that amount of revenue will be lost, that amount of jobs will be lost due to the fact that not as many people are reading the printed paper as they are watching the news on TV or getting it from an online source such as CNN or any of your daily or any of your local news stations. It's not only just newspapers that are losing ground. As you can see in this little chart, it shows that magazine readers have dropped 6% between 2002 and 2012. And reading a book went down 4% from 34 to 30, but it did have a gain in between 2002 and 2006, as did reading the magazine. The book can be affected by several things, including different sources of books, such as like online or the ebook or the Kindle's another good source for reading books nowadays. But when it comes to the newspaper, the internet and your phone and the TV and even the radio are really affecting the way that newspapers are succeeding at all. The next thing that I want to talk about is how circulation is falling rapidly. The data that Neil Luleff shows in his article had USA Today dropping 7.9% and the Washington Post dropping 6.5% from 2012 to 2013, which is a really high amount for when you consider it just being 1 year. It really shows how the new media is taking away any chance of them really gaining ground and getting back on the right track to success and making the money that they need to. I found this little chart online at the Pew Research Center, and I thought it was really interesting to see how the social network is becoming more and more popular for all age groups, and how that might be a true effect of, or a true reason why the newspaper is losing ground as well. As you can see, the men in 2010 gained 18% in just looking at the social networking, and women gained 15%. The age groups between 2010 and 2012 of 18 to 24-year-olds gained 27% by finding news on social networking sites. The next thing I want to talk about is how the job loss has increased incredibly over the past few years. Gannon Company's CEO had to cut more than 20,000 people since 2005, and it continues until it starts to regain ground. They just got a new owner, and he is hoping to turn things around and make it positive gain in numbers. The full-time job loss has increased as well. There's been a 6.4% decline in full-time professional editorial jobs from 2011 to 2012, according to Emily Guskin. Here's a look at just one of the little charts that shows how high of a decrease it's been in just a few years. Here's a little chart that shows digital replicas of the top 25 newspapers, and I thought it was interesting when you look at all the numbers and how each one of them is extremely different from one another to get the total amount. Digital replica is much smaller than the non-digital replica. And that was from 2012. This is a chart that talks about how the ad revenue has been declining over the past few years as well, and you can see quite easily how they've lost billions of dollars since 2003. The retail ad businesses you can see, started at about $21 billion a year in 2003 and are already down to just about 11 or 12 billion in 2012, which is almost in half in just a 9-year period. They're trying to figure out different ways to keep making money, and one of those ways, unfortunately, is going online, where they're getting the most attention from the population. This slide I'm going to talk about how online sources are really taking over the news, and the stat from Pew Research Center showed that 39% of people got their news from an online source compared to any other, which is, it's pushing 40%, and that is incredibly high compared to the newspapers or the TV or magazines or even the radio. And it's not, the numbers have just continue to go up over the past few years. This is a few different ways that people look for certain topics through the news. The last thing I want to talk about is how sports have been affected by the newspaper as well. According to Dan Shanoff, in only 3 months, ESPN Chicago has become the city's top sports site. That's taken away from all local news, the newspaper, radio, everything has been taken over by ESPN. And MLB.com and other sports sites have also really grown. According to Ken Doctor, it's another great source for baseball information. They have over 100 journalists working for their site today, which just shows that some are leaving newspapers and going to work for the bigger companies now that are making more money and aren't afraid of losing their job every day. Personally, I think that the newspaper needs to cut its losses and start working towards going online, where they're going to actually make some money compared to where they're at right now, which is at the moment just losing money. There's a few local or every once in a while a big company that's making a little gain every once in a while, but it's not an overall population for the newspaper is going down. And I believe the only way to really get it back up or to make any money is by bringing more online where the local and everyday people are really getting their news from, or even on the radio sometimes. So there are a few reasons why I think the newspapers won't survive unless they do something drastic to change. Through this, I hope you learn that the newspaper is losing ground quickly, and that there are only a few ways that they can turn it around. And I hope that, me personally, I like to enjoy reading a newspaper because I feel like it's more in depth than normal, than online or the radio. But not everybody can go online and read it. So I hope that you hope maybe next time you go grab a newspaper, instead of just going looking online, help them out a little bit.